Welcome to Kellie's News You Can Use, a podcast dedicated to healthcare information. Hello there. Welcome to our second Kellie's News You Can Use podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Kim Alley, VP of Sales and Marketing. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me.
Thank you for coming. So we wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about our history and explain to you as the residents why I don't report to healthcare and why I actually report to sales and marketing. So Kim and I are going to talk about our background, the goals that we have for John Knox Village, and just let you learn a little bit about our history. So we go way back, Kim.
We sure do. What is it, 13 years?
It feels like it, yeah. Your kids were in high school, mine was in elementary school.
Yes, long time.
Yes. So I think we first met when I was working at Coventry Living, correct?
Yes, I remember I was visiting a colleague, Marilyn, and you walked into the room, and I was looking for a salesperson, and you walked in the room and you commanded such a presence about yourself in your 5-inch heels. And I was like, wow. And you just came up, you introduced yourself, you had such a very outgoing personality, and I remember just giving you my card and saying, hey, if you ever want to change, give me a call. And then you did.
I did. And then the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So I worked with you, under you at Brookdale for two and a half years?
2.5 years, yeah.
And I share this story with everyone because it's very meaningful to me. As Kim's business development director for Broward County, with 7 communities?
7 communities at that time, yeah.
I worked very closely with hospital systems, and HCA Healthcare at the time approached me about an amazing job opportunity. And Kim is my boss. I went to her, and she was completely supportive and said, you have to do this. And I said, I don't know if I can do this. And you said, of course you can do this.
Of course you can do this. You can do anything. So
I left working for Kim, but we've always stayed in contact, good, bad, and ugly. Mm-hmm. And in about 2021, we started back on this topic of, do you want to come and be business development for John Knox?
Yeah. So in 2021, I got here in June of 2020 at John Knox Village, and one of the things that I always thought that we needed to do was really get the presence out for John Knox Village. No one really knew who we were, what we were. They just knew the clock on 95. They didn't really understand what the capacity of a continuing care retirement community like ours has, and how great our Woodlands was, or Gardens West. So at the time I was the director of sales, and I approached my vice president of sales at the time and said, listen, we really need to hire a dynamo type of person who has all the capacity as far as independent living, CCRC, assisted living, home health care, all of this, skill set, and we need this person to come and start developing, relationships and bringing them to John Knox Village. And it took about a year for us to do this, right? Because my vice president of sales, she was all gung-ho. You met her a couple of times. She was excited about it, but we had to get the buy-in from the other senior leadership at the time. And then we did. And then the first project that we put you on was the Center for Healthy Living, to work with Tom Price, to really start developing and looking for professionals out there to come and be a resource for our residents. And then it just evolved from there.
It surely has. So let's kind of go over the goals. Were helping with the Woodlands and getting the census and getting the word out and working with more than just Holy Cross Hospital, partnering with the other hospitals, and assisting with that structure that wasn't there. And we are now sitting in a very successful rehab and long-term care from a census and revenue and people knowing us and being number one in the community.
Well, and I think one of the things that people should know is, we go back in history. The Woodlands was very successful, but it capitalized on mostly orthopedic. And during COVID and all the different changes that happened, we need someone like you that was an out-of-the-box thinker, who could, on her phone, call a physician and that physician would answer your phone call. But to educate those physicians, because the physicians didn't even know who we were. So really, that the first task was our Woodlands was struggling with occupancy at that time. And, what did we need to do? How did we need to restructure the admissions department? Really looking at a long-term big picture strategy. How do we educate the rest of the team? What are we doing with the Center for Healthy Living? There was empty, units in there. What are we going to do? This is the residents, welfare. How do we bring these resources in the door? And then one of the things that we started talking about is, we have a partnership with Responsive Home Health for private home care. And then we have our own home health agency that's a Medicare home health agency. But the residents didn't really understand. They didn't understand what the difference was, or even the capacity of the resources that they have here on campus. And then you came up with the brainchild of your coffee chat. And I'm so thrilled from the first time I was there, where there was 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
I think your biggest fan, John, was there, and he's still there. And now it's standing room only. And you're bringing in such resources within the community of all the different hospitals, CEOs, different types of specialty physicians, and really educating the residents. And I think that's huge. And I think that was a missing piece of what we had. So when you and I get phone calls all the time, and even Jen does, why doesn't Kellie report to Jen Stevens? I think it's a bigger picture for everyone to really understand that it's a big picture strategy. We all work collectively. We are not siloed. Jennifer Stevens and I work together. You work with Jen.
Mm-hmm.
But we really need to have a strategy out there, and we need to see the results. And you definitely bring the results, Cal.
Thank you. And we keep plugging away. We've added a second coffee chat on tour with Genevieve. We've started this podcast, which I hope more and more residents will watch. They're short, they're simple, they're to the point so that they can learn. But I also want to kind of talk a little bit about our vision and what we've planned for this year, 2025, and what we see for myself and adding value to the residents from a clinical standpoint. We're now collectively working very closely with new CEOs, including Imperial Point.
Yes.
Bob Dahl is actually coming to my coffee chat next month, and it will be taped for everyone that can't get into the coffee chat. But the other thing that you and I shared was, people will come up to you or me, why is Kellie keep doing that coffee chat in the LEC at the Woodlands? And I think we both agree that we want to keep it intimate. We want to make sure that there's the dialogue, and if it's in a setting like the Cultural Arts Center, you lose that.
Correct.
So we're trying to add more.
Right, and I think you doing some of the cluster meetings and being invited with the senators is really a positive, because I do think having 1,000+ residents on campus, right? Sometimes there's some misinformation, or maybe we didn't hear it correctly. So having you make sure that we're giving everyone facts.
Right.
And that you are a resource. I know many residents have been in situations where they've called you and they've reached out to you. Hey, I need a physician. Who do you know? What can I do? And that's what I want here at John Knox Village. We are a family. Our residents become our family. Residents to residents become each other's family and looking out for one another. Our employees. But the biggest thing is we need to be a resource, because there's ever-changing things that are happening in healthcare every day. I'm excited that these CEOs are taking the time out of their busy schedule to really learn about John Knox Village, and it shocks me sometime when we were meeting with the CEO a few weeks ago, and he really didn't understand the concept or really understand John Knox Village or who we were or what we are. So I think we lead so many other communities, even in our area, of the amenities, of the offerings, but of the uniqueness and the genuine authenticity of the people here at John Knox Village. So why not give them the resources, and why not be that expert with the clinical? So that's what my vision. I wanted you to be the expert person that someone calls, the residents call. But with your resources that you're able to bring so many other people on here that maybe a resident wouldn't even thought twice that should be a specialty that they look at,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But educating them also of what's going on in the hospitals right now, the struggles they're having, you
Absolutely.
know? So I think there's more to come for 2025, and I'm really looking forward to 2026 too.
Absolutely. It's going to be great. It's going to be
real good.
exciting. And just to wrap up, we hosted an event last evening and we had Dr. Camille Dixon. It was the first time you had met
Yes.
her. And she's the dentist that's coming into the Center for Healthy Living. And what a lovely lady.
She's going to be fantastic. I think residents who already go to her, but new residents, I mean, I fell in love. I was like, ooh, and I like my dentist, but there was something about her that I was like, you know what? I may consider.
And she's close by.
Yeah.
So we're ETA is June, we're hoping.
Mm-hmm.
And we have more things, you and I, down the pike we can't share, but could be great
Yeah.
for the end of 2025 and beginning of 2026. And I
So
think
more to come, JKV residents, more to come.
absolutely. Well, thanks, Kim. I appreciate your time. I know
Yeah.
how busy you are, and I think that this should help the residents understand a little bit more of our history and why we do what we do and our mindset of what we want for JKV.
I think so. Well, thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining us for our second podcast. We'll see you next time.